Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So guys, we're still on the Abba Kyari narrative. This time around, Femi Adesina, the spokesperson for Malam Buhari, gives his narration of his last encounter with Abba Kyari. Very much an Afonja type of narrative, nevertheless interesting. Guys, I bring you this, my last contact with Abba Kyari by Femi Adesina. So that's the headline, and a Afonja piece, as I said, but nevertheless interesting. The headline again, my last contact with Abba Kyari by Femi Adesina, and this is what Femi has to say. So the prose is very much like a novella, sort of like a literary fiction, and he starts it off with this. He told us he would be back at his desk soon. I believed it, but now it would never happen. Not tomorrow, not next week, not forever. Chief of Staff to the President, Malam Abba Kyari, has gone the way of all flesh. Our last contact was on Friday, March the 20th, 2020. President Muhammadu Buhari was scheduled to meet with the chairman of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Cassie-Brewer, by 3 p.m. Such meetings hold in the diplomatic room of the presidential office complex. The protocol is that aides invited to attend any meeting must be seated 15 minutes before the president walks in. I was in the diplomatic room at the required time. A seat had been designated for me next to that of the chief of staff. A few minutes later, Malam Abba, as is often called by us, walked in. I rose to greet him. "Femi, how are you? They have said we should not shake hands again," he responded. Rather jocularly, he extended his right foot. I touched his foot with my own, and we laughed. Leg shake instead of handshake. At the dot of 3 p.m., he does it like clockwork, the grand old soldier, so that is in parentheses. The president walked in. We all rose to welcome him, as we normally do. The ECOWAS Commission boss had come to discuss the ensuing constitutional crisis in Guinea-Conakry, which was to hold elections that weekend. After 10 years in office and at 82 years of age, President Alpha Conde had insisted on running for another term in office, and he tinkered with the country's constitution to make himself eligible. The opposition was having none of it, and there was civil disobedience in which some lives had been lost. President Buhari is the immediate past chairman of ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, and a highly respected figure in the sub-region. The ECOWAS Commission boss had come to consult him on the way forward for Guinea-Conakry. The meeting lasted for about 30 minutes, during which the situation in Guinea-Bissau had also come up briefly. When we rose, I had my opinion on what to do about the matters discussed. I consulted with Malam Abba and he agreed completely with me. I took my leave and headed back to my office. Walking right behind me was the chief of staff, flanked by Director General of the National Intelligence Agency and my colleague in the media house, Malam Garba Shehu. They were chatting. After I passed through the security screening point that would see me turn off to my office, I looked back instinctively. Why did I do it? I don't know. Still don't know. But it turned out to be my last view of Kyari. He was laughing as he talked with the two people beside him. The glass I took turned out to be the very final. About 72 hours later, Malam Abba was diagnosed with the deadly C virus, which sent him sadly on a journey of no return. Catching C-19, as the inelegant virus has been elegantly codenamed by the World Health Organization, is not supposed to be a death sentence. I had no doubt that Malam Abba would beat the infection and be back at his desk soon, as he promised. I prayed for him a number of times in the following 3 weeks. On Tuesday, April the 15th, the president was built to receive a delegation from the European Union by noon. As I walked into the presidential villa, I met a personal staff of the chief of staff. "How is Chief?" I asked. He told me he was doing well and that was what we believed. I am not much of a dreamer, at least not dreams with significance. Dreams come from a multitude of business, as the good book says. So, if a man drinks a bowl of gari before going to bed and he dreams of swimming in a pond or a river, he actually started swimming right from inside that bowl of gari. On Thursday night inward Friday, I dreamt the president and myself were in the corridor in the presidential villa. He was talking with me. Suddenly, by my right, I saw a figure waiting for me to finish with the president. It was Malam Abba, cladded in his usual white native attire with the trademark red cap, but this time there was no flowing agbada, which I found rather odd. He never or rarely appeared without the flowing robe. He was heavily bearded, another surprise, and the beard was all white. I rounded off discussions with the president and yielded space for the chief. I made nothing of the dream, but after he died, I shared my experience with my friend Malam Gaba Din Mohammed. He came to say goodbye to you, and you didn't know, my friend said. I didn't know till then that Gaba Din had the uncommon gift of interpretation of dreams. Well, now I know where to go the next time I dream. On Friday, April the 17th, I uncharacteristically went to bed after listening to the 8 p.m. news, and off I went, for he giveth his beloved sleep. No dream, no kakiri, that is wandering in my sleep, till my phone fetched me from far distance out of that deep sleep. It was 12:05 a.m. So this guy now, obviously, so this is me interjecting now. This guy now is obviously fancying himself as Wole Soyinka from the flow of this narrative. He fancies himself as a wordsmith or something, or some gifted novelist, which he certainly isn't. But we carry on. On the other end of the phone was a senior aide of the president. He told me he was there with two other very prominent personalities whom he named. Then he dropped the bomb. Malam Abba is dead, and we need you to issue a statement informing the public. I sprang from the bed with my head almost touching the ceiling. Sleep fled completely from my eyes. Abba Kyari dead? How? When? Where? But he promised us he would soon be back at his desk. This was sad, sad. I put the statement together. In the process, I had a feeling of deja vu. I remembered the day in September 2014 as I had typed the press statement announcing the death of Dingba Igwe, my boss, my friend and brother, who had got knocked down by a hit-and-run driver as he jogged on the road in Okota area, Lagos. I had worked under Igwe as a reporter for years and as editor of the Sun newspaper, whilst he was deputy managing director / deputy editor-in-chief before retirement. As I typed the announcement of Kyari's death, I remembered that day in August 2015 when I had been directed to announce his appointment as chief of staff. Ironically, the lot to announce his death also fell on me, the job of a spokesman, and that ends with an exclamation mark. From the time I issued the statement at 12:30 a.m. Friday, my phone never stopped ringing for hours. In this era of fake news, people want to reconfirm everything from the source. Despite signing the statement and putting it in different platforms of traditional and digital media, everybody who had access to me must call. My two phones rang simultaneously and ceaselessly. I was at home, planted in front of the television as Kyari was being buried at Gudu Cemetery. It all looked surreal. Yes, the man had a frail health at the best of time, but death, it didn't sound probable, though nobody actually knows when the Grim Reaper could come calling. As I watched Malam Abba being consigned to Mother Earth, my childhood thoughts came roaring back. What if he had only lost consciousness and he regained it after the sand had been heaped on him? What if he felt so much heat and he could not move or shout? Oh, the lot of a mortal man doomed to die, whether he liked it or not. I thought of Mr. President. I knew his pain, his torture, which he will bear stoically with equanimity. I'd seen him respond to news of the death of his allies, one of the most recent being that of Professor Tam David West last November. I saw the silent pain, the grief, the total submission to the perfect will of God. That of Malam Abba was no different, if not more pungent. A friend of about 42 years and chief of staff for about 5 years. Now gone. Malam Abba headed the bureaucracy of the presidential villa, and we constantly had things to do together almost daily. He had his strengths and his weaknesses. We all do. But my greatest plus for him was his loyalty to our principle. It was never in doubt. And for me, if you love Buhari, all your sins are forgiven. If they are like scarlet, they become white as snow. If they are red like crimson, they become white as wool. That is me. No apologies. I have read the majority of things written about Abba Kyari, positive and negative. I loved the balanced one by Works and Housing Minister Baba Tunde Rajefashola, and this is what he has to say. I bear testimony to his dedicated execution of the Presidential Infrastructural Development Fund initiative, which guaranteed funds to cash-strapped projects like the Second Niger Bridge, the Abuja-Kano Highway, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Mambila Hydro Project, and the East-West Road. Like all of us, Abba was flawed, but he was not conceited. We disagreed, but I never found him disagreeable. Infrastructure will be one of the strongest achievements of the Buhari government by the time it exits in 2023. There is no way those great projects will be counted without the name of Kyari being mentioned, or the rice and fertilizer revolution and agriculture in general. He was the moving force behind most of them, translating the vision of the president into action. The good he did will live after him. The weaknesses have been interred with his bones. So this is Femi now granting this guy absolution effectively. I'm not sure if he's trying to play God here, because it is not his role to absolve this guy of his weaknesses. That is down to God. So he says the good he did will live after him, and the witnesses have been interred with his bones. I'm not quite sure if this is something that people traditionally say about people who pass on, because of course they say speak good of the dead, but he carries on. Some people, particularly on social media, have rejoiced about the passage of the chief of staff. They are all men most miserable, really to be pitied. I recommend them to the poem The Glories of Our Blood and State by James Shirley. So he goes on to quote the poem, which I am not going to read here. Let's just pick it up from after the poem. Those gloating are mere mortals. We all have our different appointments with death. May it only be in the fullness of time is our prayer, but nobody has control over it. So he rounds it off with this last paragraph. Abba Kyari sleeps till the great day of awakening, after what Shakespeare calls life's fitful fever. He contracted the deadly virus on an official trip abroad, so he died in the line of duty. He has done his own. You too, do your own. For God, for country, and for humanity. And then he signs it off, additional special advisor, blah, 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 with his title. So ears that I am loyal, sir, they are also saying it to Buhari's ears to say, I am available, sir. And not only are they echoing it in Buhari's ears to say, I am available, sir, they are also echoing it in the ears of whoever is going to occupy that spot, that look, we're loyal to this guy till his passing, and we were loyal to him in his passing, so we are loyal people. So very much a political piece, and save your own skin sort of piece by this Femi Adesina. If you want to boil it down to a singularity, it's the narrative that he said that his relationship with Abba Kyari is built upon the foundation of the loyalty that Abba Kyari, that he perceived Abba Kyari having towards Buhari. So this is what he predicated everything on. Not that this guy was good for Nigeria, not that this guy was excellent at his job, not that this guy was acting in the interest of the common man or to project and propel the country forward, but he based all of his entirety of his opinion on Abba Kyari, on the fact that he perceived Abba Kyari to be loyal to Buhari, and he went on to say that even if you were scarlet, which is a deep form of red, if you were loyal to Abba Kyari, he sees you as white as snow. These are his own words. So very much already a rankadede sort of a kowtowing mentality at play here. This is now deep politics being played by this Femi Adesina fella, but nevertheless he has presented it in an elegant prose. Conversations in the comments. But before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come tell me what you are making of what I am saying is a rankadede and an indobale piece by Femi Adesina. I would have gone in harder, but of course a man passed on, and really you have to respect that transition of life to death. So irrespective of whoever this guy is, you still have to respect that transition. So this is just why I'm a bit tempered in the tone, because really I would and should go in harder, but you can go in as hard as you like in the comment section where conversation takes place. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section, but here I say peace.